Eurovision is coming to the UK. It's time to show the world how we host. Get ready.
I was born ready.
Because this year, it's in Liverpool. Of course it is. Now, come on. The Eurovision Song Contest. Watch from Tuesday, 9th of May on BBC iPlayer.
Hello, it's Graham here. Welcome to the AFC DONScast from the Inverness Reds. We're recording this one on Sunday, the 7th of May, 2023. Last week, the Dons started the week with the appointment of Barry Robson as full-time manager and celebrated the best of this season in the Player of the Year awards. And this week, we have a big week coming up for our 40th anniversary of our European Cup winners' Cup success, with a week of events and a weekend of celebration ahead. In this edition of the DONScast, we have an extended interview with Barry on his appointment and new Chief Exec Alan Burrows. John McMaster looks back on that famous night in Gothenburg. Plus, we dip into the Player of the Year awards and bring you the full list of winners and, of course, our regular roundup of Dons news, some signing news and some supporters news. But before all that, we look back at today's game against Rangers at Ibrox. And despite some great attempts, our 7-game winning run has come to an end after Todd Cantwell's volley was the only goal in the game midway through the second half. First half breaks from Majowski and Duke should have seen us at least score a goal, but was to no avail. Thankfully, Hearts also lost against Celtic, meaning the points gap between the two sides remains the same in a race to secure a third in that crucial Euro spot. Here's Barry with his thoughts on the match.
Barry, the winning run comes to an end, but a couple of good chances for Duke first half that could have made a big difference.
Oh, brilliant chances. You don't get as good a chance as that. It's very difficult. They don't come around often when you come down Ibrox. But they were two brilliant chances, more than Rangers had. Stonewall penalty. So frustrating for us, but a really, really good performance from us again. And I think Keller had a couple of good saves first half. Second half, Rangers get a goal from a set play, and then the last 15 minutes we had a real go to try to get back at them. And I think for the players, as I said to them, I said that's how we want to come down here and perform. And another day we could have came away with 3 points here today.
You mentioned the penalty appeal. How did you view it?
It's just VAR again. I don't know where we're at. I'm actually really confused. I don't know where we're at. So what can I say? We've looked at it back, and I just don't know how VAR hasn't even just came and said nothing. So I don't know what did they check? Did they check that? Did they not check that? I do not know. I don't know what to check. I don't know what to check. I have no clue. So I can just stand here and say I'm looking at it, watching, going, that to me looks like a free kick, and then it carried on to the box. It to me looks like a penalty, and nothing said. Nobody says nothing, and then that's it. We move on, and what's the point in having VAR?
It's good. There's a good question. The other contentious moment for Aberdeen was the hands up from Cantwell, which on another day is a red rather than a yellow.
I've not seen it back. I can only comment what everybody's telling me. I've not seen that, and I'm hearing that he's a lucky boy, Cantwell. But it's the same. We come down here, we've had that decision against us, so it's frustrating to say the least.
Frustrating as well about those chances, because I think if you would have felt if you'd gone a goal ahead against Rangers, then that might have been difficult for them to come back.
Yeah, but you've got to remember they've got some really good football players. So they might the old form. The type of player you come up against, the financial side of it, all that sort of things. And what we need to do is we need to be Aberdeen, and we need to try and stay in the fight with them and bring the game to them at the right times. We couldn't be as aggressive today as we were at home. It's a bit different down here. But I thought when we were aggressive at the right times today, and we nearly got a few, we should have scored a few goals, and we should have came away with something from the game, so it was frustrating.
What pleased you and didn't please you about the performance?
Just with the boys had defended so well, and they lose a goal from a set play, and I thought we could have been a wee bit better with the ball. I thought we went too quick on transition at times. We should have put a couple of extra passes in, but that's just the players being keen to want to go and score, and I like that. But we've also need to try and play a wee bit more with that, because we've been getting that balance well. We've been doing that really well. So and just defensively and structurally and organised, the way we want to press, the way we want to run, we're not easy to play against. And as I said, the speed on transition, teams really struggle against us.
And the reality is, you were 5 points ahead with 5 games to go. It's now 4 games to go, and it's a home game against Hibs next.
Yeah, big game for us. Game we're really looking forward to. I've said that to players. No one comes in tomorrow. Everybody heads up, chest up. Let's go. We're ready to go for Hibs.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
Catch live audio and video of our next match only on Red TV. Subscribe now for full matchday coverage, replays, highlights and all the goals, exclusive interviews and behind the scenes content. Sign up now at redtv.afc.co.uk. The best of the action only on Red TV.
Coming up, the extended interview with Barry Robson and Alan Burrows, but before that, a quick roundup of the rest of the matches in the SPFL at the weekend. On Friday, Dundee won the championship title with a 5-3 win over Queen's Park in an incredible game at Oakleview. Gary Bauer's side went into the match needing a draw to get over the line, but they secured a memorable win thanks to a second-half goals from Lyle Cameron and Luke McCowan after an amazing first half ended 3-3 each. Ayr United finished second and go into the playoff semi-finals thanks to a late goal in a 2-1 win at Scottish Cup finalist Inverness Cally Thistle. Partick Thistle will face Queen's Park in the quarter-finals after securing 4th place with a 2-2 draw away to Wraith Rovers. Morton just missed out on the playoffs despite a 2-1 win away to Cove Rangers, who have been relegated. Arbroath are safe following a 0-0 draw with Hamilton Accies at Gayfield. Accies will now face a battle to avoid relegation in the playoffs. Hibs beat St Mirren 2-1 at Easter Road on Saturday to move to within a point of 4th place Hearts in the Premiership table. In the bottom 6 games, St Johnstone defeated Dundee United 1-0 at McDermott Park to move 5 points clear of the relegation zone. Bottom club Ross County moved to within a point of Kilmarnock, who lost 2-0 at Motherwell, and Dundee United thanks to a 2-0 win over Livingston in Dingwall. Champions Dunfermline Athletic completed their successful League One campaign with a 2-0 win away to Alloa Athletic. Falkirk won 3-1 at relegated Peterhead and will face Airdrieonians, who saw off FC Edinburgh 4-1 at Meadowbank in the playoffs. Queen of the South beat Kelty Hearts 4-1 at Palmerston, and Clyde defeated Montrose 2-1 at New Douglas Park. Albion Rovers will face Spartans, who beat Brecon City on penalties in the Pyramid playoff final despite beating League 2 champions Stirling Albion 2-0 at the Reigart Stadium. Bonnyrigg Rose secured their SPFL status with a 3-0 home win over Elgin City. Forth Athletic beat East 5 1-0 at Station Park, and Stenhousemuir edged out Annan Athletic 2-1 at Oakleview. Dumbarton and Stranraer drew 1-0. In the other match on Sunday, Celtic clinched the Premiership title after winning 2-0 against 10-man Hearts at Tynecastle.
5 pairs of ordinary Brits.
I have faith in you.
On an epic journey across Canada.
Love that.
Love that.
Okay, let's do this.
Let's go. Go, 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 go.
No phones.
My God, this map goes on forever.
Wow.
We're not going to make it.
No flights.
No.
No
We
luxuries.
have to get to the checkpoint as quickly as possible.
And no plan.
Got no idea. Are your dogs friendly?
Yes.
Are you going to kill us?
No. Things are heating up.
We need to be taking this a lot more serious. This is not a jolly.
Something you may need, bear spray.
Bear spray? You just spray it on you like aftershave. Well, I'm not going out to find a bear.
We're looking to get to Whitehorse today.
It's no holiday.
Good luck.
It's Race Across the World.
The final of Race Across the World is this Wednesday at 9, and the teams meet up again to reflect on the adventure of a lifetime in Race Across the World, the reunion, at 10:40pm on BBC One Scotland and iPlayer. Barry Robson has agreed a 2-year contract as Aberdeen manager after a run of 7 straight wins during his time in interim charge. Assistant Steve Agnew has also signed a contract until the end of the 2024-25 season. Barry spoke to the media last Tuesday alongside new Chief Exec Alan Burrows.
Well, Barry, you're sitting here, you've got the picture of the great man, Sir Alex Ferguson, on the wall there. How does it feel to be joining the list of Aberdeen managers now?
I think it's a huge privilege. It's a wonderful football club, big football club. Obviously, there's been a lot of good managers came through here, a lot of good players as well. But we need to focus on what's here for us right now, and that's what we've done over the last couple of months, and we just have to keep cracking on with that.
When you were appointed on an interim basis way back at the end of January, it feels like an eternity ago. Now, did the thought even cross your mind back then that fast forward a few months, you get the job on a permanent basis?
Well, when I always bored you all about I take a game at a time, I think that tells the answer on that. So No, it was very much a case of come in, do your best for the football club. I know how we want to win games, and the most important thing at this football club is that you win football matches, and I understand that. And we knew that the team was they were a wee bit fragile at the time. Obviously, we know where we took the team over, so we understood that, and we had to try and build them up again, which we managed to do, and built a bit of confidence in, gave us a good structure, a good platform to build on, and the players took to it brilliantly, and we went and won a few games. So that was the most important thing. We had to get the club going again, and we managed to do it.
And obviously your future's secured, so Steve's as well. I mean, how important was that for you? And I guess it says a lot that he's obviously bought into everything that you're trying to do and the club are trying to do.
Yeah, I think he's well documented. I've told you all. He's a terrific coach, a good human being, a football man. He's important for me. He's got real experience on the game. He also challenges me, which is important. I challenge him back. So I need people around about me who's going to challenge me. That's the key ingredient you need to have. And just a good human being who's a real good football man.
So your long-term future is secure, but I guess in the immediate term, nothing really changes. It's about just keeping things moving in the direction that you've got them moving in.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we've managed to build a lot of structure and footballing terms in them. We've managed to put it in them now for a good however many weeks it's been. They've managed to carry that out on the football pitch. So, yeah, things will. We've got to carry on and try to keep doing what we're doing and winning football matches. It's a huge 5 games. It's 5 cup finals. We understand that. It's a whole top 6 you've got to play. Everybody needs to play everyone. So it's going to be difficult. And I've never came here and said anything else in that. It's hard enough any game you play in this league, but especially when you're up against the top 6. So we need to go in full focus, full throttle, and try and win some football matches.
It's obviously the immediate goals, but obviously it's trying to secure one of those European spots, hopefully finish third. But just looking longer term, I mean, what is the objective? What is the target?
The target is where we are right now to time win football matches. I'm not looking too far ahead. You don't do that. The mindset I have is a full focus. Everyone, all the staff, all the players, is focusing on right now, where we're at and how we're going to try and win some more football matches. And that will be full focus. And you'll never get bored of me saying that, but I'll never get bored of it. That's what I want everybody to concentrate on right now. And that's what we're going to do. And it's a real tough game coming against Rangers. They're still a top team. With a lot of speed and a lot of ability. They'll move you about, rotate you about the pitch. And we need to be at our very best to try and like 8s, 9s, as I said it last week, we need to be at that to try and get a result down there.
Obviously, you say the focus is on now, but obviously we'll be into the transfer window in a matter of weeks. How big a job have you got potentially in the summer? Because you look at it, you've got eight loan players at the moment. There's speculation surrounding some of your star men. You've got a few players who are out of contract. I mean, from the outside looking in, it looks like that's a potentially a really big rebuild you could have on your hands.
Obviously, we know that. We've got some loan players. We've obviously got some players that are contracted, some very good players. Some players that maybe want to move on. We understand all that. I've been in dialogue with the recruitment team for the last 2 months, so it's not something that it's came new to me or took me by surprise. We've been speaking every day about different players, where we want to go, how we want to recruit. And it's a good setup in the background there, and we're on that. As I said, we've been on it for a while, and we're actually looking forward to it. We're looking forward to a summer with hopefully we could keep some players and we could take some new ones in and keep building and get some stability and balance and all that what we need, and we'll manage to do that.
You talked about the foundation there and getting some players in. Obviously Angus McDonald, a huge get, really popular player with the fans as well. It's he's one part of the building block. How are you getting on targeting the rest of that back line? And is there a chance that you could have more signed up before the end of the season?
Well, what I won't do is sit here and speak about when we're sitting privately speaking to some players. Obviously, we've got some players on loan. We've got some players who are tied to other clubs. So we need to respect that. We're in conversations with a lot of different people. So we need to make sure that stays private between the players. We are active, very active. We would like to get business done early, but it's not always possible. We are forward thinking as a club. We are trying to bring in the right people who can handle playing for Aberdeen and the way we want to do things, which is built on hard work, desire, and wanting to run for your club. And I've always said that from the very start. And then all the detail, the technical abilities, and all that comes after that. It's the type of people we want at the club. It's the type of people that the fans want. And that's what we're looking into.
But you're obviously a very experienced coach, and you've managed lots of games at various levels. How are you enjoying the kind of this third part of it, the kind of the recruitment part?
Well, it's a good part of it. Obviously, I got a lot of help from Stephen Glynn, Director of Football, who's heavily involved with all that. And we've got other recruitment guys in behind. We've got a lot of scouts that I've known for years. We've had to try and recruit the younger age groups here as well. So it's guys that I do know. And it's a good structure we've got. So we just have to make sure that we make the right decisions. Once we've targeted the players that we want, we have to make sure it's the right decisions. And that's the most important thing. And we'll take our time, and we'll make sure things are done right, and we find the right people to come and play at Aberdeen.
Barry, how confident are you that you can help to build something special at this football club?
Well, I am confident. What I want to do is just win football matches. And I know it sounds very simple to say, but it's very hard to do. And we need to do that. You'll never hear me shouting from the rooftops when things are going well. You'll never hear me shouting from the rooftops when things are not going so well. Balance is a huge word in football, and you need to make sure you do that right throughout everything that you're trying to achieve, whether that's recruitment, whether that's winning football matches, whatever it is. And that's what my focus is totally on, for the football club and for the players and for the staff. So we will be built on hard work. That's the way I was as a player and a person. That's the way I was brought up. So and when you do that, you've got a chance to do well.
You signed a 2-year contract extension. You and the directors are clearly singing from the same hymn sheet. How happy are you with the budget you've been given to rebuild and strengthen?
It's what it is it's when everyone wants to talk about budgets and all the rest of it, which is understandable. But it's when you have a budget, it's finding the right player and the right person in that budget, and that's my focus. Is the club try its best to give you as strong a budget as possible, but you've got to remember the club wouldn't run into debt or go and be reckless with that. I would never want that as an Aberdeen fan. The club needs to be bright in how it does things, and we need to make sure that we do it right and we get the best players available without having to put any debt or things onto this football club. It's a well-run football club, and we need to keep it that way.
You're building up brilliant momentum as a team, 7 victories in a row, absolutely terrific. How important is that going into these final 5 games?
Yes, it's important, but you can lose football matches. Any team can. It's been a good run. The players have been outstanding. It's credit to them how hard they've worked for each other. They've got a good bond. But we know it's a really difficult game at the weekend. We know it is a very difficult game to go down there against a really good Rangers side, who, as I've said before, that they are still a very, very hard team to play against down there. So we know that and we understand it, and we need to get things. We need to be bang at it in every department to try and get a result.
And going down to Ibrox, it's a cauldron, if you like, that you know very well as a player. How much are you looking forward to going down there for the first time as a manager?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's I've had a few memories over the years as a player there. Yeah, I'm sure. My biggest thing as a player and as a player or as a person or as a manager is go down there with no fear. You know, go and enjoy it. Enjoy the cauldron. That is when you're a young player and you're coming into the game. That's where you want to play in the big arena, the arena where the pressure's on, where it's hostile. They want to come after you, and that's what the game is. If you want to, that's where you need to be as a player. Your mindset as a player. Don't fear it. You might come up against bigger players, better players, wherever you are, whatever league you're in. But you've got to try and embrace it. I did it myself when I've played with different teams coming up against big teams. And we always enjoyed it and stayed in the fight. And that's what my message is clear to the players. Be brave. Brave with the ball, brave without the ball.
And team news, how's that shaping up for the weekend?
Yeah, we're okay. We're all right at the minute. Everybody seems to be fine at the minute. So let's see if we can go and try and put on a good performance.
Just to go back to the recruitment for a minute, Barry, obviously you're quite right not to look past the next game, but how important is it to get that coveted third spot to make that recruitment process a bit easier in terms of the kind of player you're looking for?
I think finishing high up as possible is the most important thing. We need to try and do that. But it's not easy. We're coming up against other teams that are trying to fight for the same spots. All of us together. They will all believe that they can finish as high as possible, but it's not something I'm battering down to the players at the minute. I'm just saying to the players, we've got a huge game at the weekend. Let's crack on with that and see what we can do.
And just finally, it's going to be a cauldron of noise on there, but you will have a small number of fans, who are going to be backing you all the way. So again, that's just a great incentive to give them that great result.
I know I'm a bit biased, but they're the best in the business for me. They've been phenomenal since I've been in here, away from home, all the different places. And that's enjoyable for the players. They've got that small pocket of fans. But as I said to the players, when you go out to Ibrox or wherever it is, stand with your chest out and go and try your best to win a football match.
Alan, why Barry?
It's a good question. I think there's a number of reasons, Tyrone. I think not only has Barry, shown on the pitch, what he can achieve, in terms of winning matches and getting the team going and building players and building the squad, but also the work that he's done away from the pitch, a lot of which goes unnoticed generally day to day. I hadn't met Barry before I came to Aberdeen Football Club. I had never had any real dealings with him, but I'd heard a lot about him before I got here from people at Aberdeen. I was really taken aback by how highly he was regarded by the senior people at Pittodrie. And then after my first meeting with him at Cormac Park, the Monday after the Livingston game, that hour and a half I could really sense from him just the type of character he was and what he had about him, and I really liked him from the get go. I really thought this guy's definitely got the materials to be doing it, and thankfully, in the 6 games that have followed that, we've continued that on that path. He's won, but in terms of the stuff he's been doing away from it over the last 45 years, Barry's been developing a bit of a DNA of what it means to be Aberdeen, player from the very youth, academy players through in the development squad and development age groups into the first team, and really trying to hone in on what it means to play for this football club and what it means to be successful at this football club. And now that he's in a position as manager, we're really excited about him being able to drive that forward and really kind of taking that from the top down. It's almost the utopia of what football clubs want, that real connectivity between the 3 different areas of player development. And we think Barry now is the kind of flagship, most senior football person, within the football department, in that sense, that he can really help us drive that forward and really connect up those departments. So the first and foremost is win matches, and he's proven that, develop players and give them, confidence and a structure, and he's done that. And the third thing, as I said, is connecting up the various different departments and the various different age groups at the football club to try and create a real synergy between the very youngest player to the most senior player in the first team squad. So those were the 3 key reasons about Barry. And also, listen, we've got a big job to do for the summer as well, and that's part of the reason why that process was expedited slightly from what we had said 6 or so weeks ago.
how far and wide did you cast the net in terms of this managerial search, and at what point did you realise, well, the answer's right beneath our very noses?
Yeah, I came into the process after it started. Yeah, as you can imagine, Jim had left a couple of weeks before I had arrived at Aberdeen, and what I'd found through Stephen Gunn, the director of football, Willie Gardner and Stuart Milne, the two directors, was a huge amount of work that had already been undertaken to try and identify who the next Aberdeen manager was going to be. That had really taken two different approaches. You had the traditional approach of people who would approach the club and register their interest with their CVs, as you would normally expect. But over and above that, there was a huge amount of work done on identifying successful managers from all across the world. And that was a very kind of data-led approach, very similar to the type of approach that has identified the likes of Majowski and Duke and Ramadani as players. They're managers who've been successful against a criteria that Aberdeen, wanted. That talked to things like longevity of service, on success, win rates, percentages. The makeup of the squads that they had at their particular clubs, ages, ability to sell players, etc. So that really gave us a really extensive list of candidates from all across the world who have been successful. And that stretched from as close as Inverurie when it comes to Barry, and as far wide as has been reported to Far East, and everything in between. So that was a really extensive process. It's a process that I was extremely impressed by when I arrived here, and that really helped us identify a number of key candidates. Clearly, Barry had an advantage over them because Barry's obviously got a bit of an ability to show the board in lifetime what he's able to do by being the interim manager, and that's sometimes the advantage that all interim managers have, that they can demonstrate those qualities whilst telling you about them at the same time. So I was really satisfied that the quality of candidate that we had at the time was really, really good. The people who we spoke to were of a very, very high standard. But I think sometimes you can be in danger of ignoring what you've got under your own nose at times, because you always feel as if you have to look external to get the best candidates. But I think Barry, from the things that I've said earlier on and what he's managed to demonstrate during the interim period, certainly convinced not only just me, because it's important to say this, that in order to be appointed the manager of a football club like this, it's not just about impressing the chief exec. We've got a very active owner. We've got a very active board of directors, all of whom are very engaged with the club. So Barry's job is about impressing all of them and convincing all of them that he could be the manager of Aberdeen Football Club, and all the responsibilities and that come along with that, and the pressures that come along with that. And he certainly managed to do that over his period of interim charge.
You mentioned there, I think in your first answer, about how you decided to expedite the process, given the amount of work it needs done in the summer. I mean, just on that, how big a job is Barry potentially going to have? Because you look at 8 players on loan, there's speculation about 2 or 3 of the star men. There's a few players out of contract as well. From the outside looking in, it looks like there's the potential for a really big rebuild needing done.
Sure.
Do you envisage that's what's going to happen? There is going to be a huge rebuild, because some of these numbers, you have 11, 12 players potentially needing replaced, or do you think you'll be able to hang on to some of the star names and some of the guys like the Matty Pollocks of this world? You will be able to bring them back here in the summer.
Sure. Listen, I think you've highlighted the position there, and I understand that, and everybody understands that, and that is absolutely one of the reasons why we wanted to get Barry in place. Is, we understand that there's a lot of work to get done. A lot of that will depend, Tyrone, to a certain extent, about how the current squad is managed, the retention of the current squad. And I mean by that the guys who are either short-term contracts or out of contract, or might be on loan if Barry would like them. I would like to avoid getting into individual specific players, because that wouldn't be fair, particularly if they've got parent clubs at the moment in time. But I think Barry's is on record as saying that there are a number of players who are doing a really good job for him at the minute, who in an ideal world he would like to retain. And we, Stephen Gunn, myself, and the board have been working on trying to do that as best we can, whilst at the same time also identifying players from elsewhere who aren't currently with the club, as any part of the normal process would be, and loads of those discussions are very mature at this particular point. Sometimes the stumbling block comes when you're doing that part of the process, not in all of it, but sometimes people want to know who the manager's going to be, and if they're going to sign up, who they're going to sign up to play for. We've now got a bit of certainty on that, so our hope now is that process can really get kicked on. We'd already started it with Angus MacDonald. We'd done it with Johnny Hayes, Ryan Duncan slightly before that, albeit in a slightly different situation to the two aforementioned. But now that this is a real part of the process about kicking this on, because we are cognizant of the fact that there is work to do. There is no doubt. But at the same time, that also brings about opportunity. It brings about opportunity to Barry put his own stamp on it. He's managed to do that already in terms of the interim role that he's had, and really developing and kicking on the players that have been at Aberdeen prior to his arrival. And I think most people would agree that there's been, certainly improvements, not only in terms of results, but individual player performances. And we're really confident with Barry at the helm, alongside Steve Agnew and the rest of the coaching staff, that not only the players who are here that we can make better, but people who we bring in we can really develop on and really make the squad strong for 23, 24 and beyond.
And Barry, certainly, it's a strange situation because he's almost raised the bar before he's even got the job. And he's set an incredibly high standard. I would have thought the short-term target will obviously finishing third or fourth. Beyond that, though, what's the target? What's the remit for that?
I think the remit for the very short term is to finish the season as strong as we possibly can. That goes without saying. And listen, we're giving ourselves a very good chance of doing that, given the results over the last 7 or 8 weeks. I think longer term, and I've said this a few times since I've been at Aberdeen, that that I often hear at times there's also an old trope about can Aberdeen fans about what they expect, and sometimes the accusation is that people live in the past and some of the kind of golden areas of the club. What I found before I got here, and that's been ratified not only by the people that are around about the club but the people around the city, is I don't think any Aberdeen fan realistically expects the club to win in European competitions, such as the nature of how football's changed in the last 40 years. We're about to celebrate Gothenburg in 2 weeks' time. But not just for Aberdeen, but for any football club of our size to win a European trophies, that's obviously very difficult. What I would say that Aberdeen fans expect, and I think they're right to expect it, and I think people at the club should expect it, is that we expect to be challenging at the top end of the table. I think there is there's no doubt. We expect to be challenging for European places. I think the people around about the club and the supporters expect us to be challenging for cup competitions and occasionally winning them. And I think the fans expect us to be making our fist of trying to be as regular as we can a team who competes on the European group stages. And those are the ambitions, I think, for Aberdeen FC. We've said before publicly that we want to be a top 100 European club. That's a matter of record. And the only way you can do that is if you are playing regularly in European group stage competition. And to do that, you obviously need to finish up higher in the table. So all things are linked to a certain extent. So that, to me, is the expectations that I had coming here. And that's the expectations that I found, I think, from the people around about the club, and that's how ambitious we want to be. We want to be at that end of the table. We want to be winning cup competitions, or certainly competing for cup competitions, and we want to be featuring regularly in European football.
And just finally, from me as well, if I can just broaden this out a little bit, because obviously we haven't had a chance to sit down and speak to you since you came in. You've had a pretty busy, fair to say, you've had a pretty busy inbox, Alan. But just broadly, I mean, when you came in, and before you came in, you just sat down with the chairman, you probably discussed a strategy or a plan, whether it's a 2-year plan or a 5-year plan. Does such a thing exist, and kind of what are the component parts of the kind of plan that you're hoping to execute?
Yeah, the club has a very detailed vision and strategy, all of which I think have been documented by Dave and the previous board. It's about growing the supporter base. It's about growing the revenues. It's about long-term the facilities, either here at Pittodrie or Cormac Park, or the potential of a new stadium. It's about supporter engagement. It's about making sure that the fans are at the heart of everything we do. It's about influencing positively Scottish football and being a leader in Scottish football. All these things are really important to this football club. But most importantly, it's about putting a successful team on the pitch, about winning and having that winning mentality as a football club and meeting those expectations of the supporters. So that's the core and the cornerstone of our strategy and our philosophy. And it's my job, effectively, as a senior executive here, to work with the board of directors, to work with the owner, to work with all the staff here, of whom, by the way, are brilliant, and I've really enjoyed working with them, and I've been really, really glad at the quality, and not only the quality, but the dedication and the willingness of the staff to really achieve those aims and objectives since I've came here. So I think all the component parts are in place for us. We just need to fit them all together and hopefully kick on in the next 5 to 10 years for sure.
And you mentioned there being a positive influence in Scottish football. Obviously, one of the things in your inbox, the unexpected things in your inbox, I would imagine, was the whole Graham Shinney episode. Just now that the dust has settled a little bit on that, what's your kind of overriding feeling and thought on the whole situation, how it was handled, and where you go from here?
Yeah, I think the word I would use from a lot of people here is just probably frustration more than anything else. I think often when decisions go against you like that to a certain extent, your first feeling is anger. That's the first emotion that comes out, and then that can sometimes be exacerbated by other things that happen either before or since. But I think what it's incumbent upon us now is to not see this as something that happened 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. There's a bit of noise and furor about it at the time, and then it drifts off and nothing happens. I think from our point of view and what we said in our statement is we want to work with all the stakeholders, positively by the way, but work with all the stakeholders, including the referees, including the Scottish FA, including other clubs, to just try and do things a bit better, and not looking to do it in that sort of us and them type of attitude. It's actually about trying to bring people together to force positive change. And obviously, as has been documented, we have positions of influence, both by myself and other senior members of staff at the football club and various committees and various other organisations attached to the Scottish FA and the SPFL. And I think the responsible way for a club like us to do that is to try and force positive change through collaborative working, working with all those partners that I mentioned earlier on, specifically around the JPP, which is what our complaint, if you like, or our moans and groans were about. That has been in place since 2011 and hasn't been reviewed by, as far as I'm aware, to any great extent in that period of time. So I think now's as good a time as any to have a real look at that. And specifically, if you want to make it right, drilled into the element of adding matches on to players for appeals. I think, if you look at the three criteria, you've got a frivolous appeal, you've got an appeal that has no chance of success, and then you have one that is designed to effectively beat the system. I can have sympathy with the last one, but obviously since the introduction of fast track, that becomes very difficult for clubs to do that now. But I think the first two, my general opinion and the opinion of people at Aberdeen FC and broadly through football, other clubs, senior executives, the PFA, others who I've spoke to, there seems to be a broad opinion that those two don't really feel right. And if they don't really feel right, then that's something I think we should take a look at, amongst other things to do with the judicial panel protocol.
And just a final one from you, has that whole experience, because there was quite a lot of sharp things getting said as this episode was unfolding, has it soured relations between the football club and the Scottish football authorities? And just on that, you're saying that you've touched on this already, but you sense there is a real appetite amongst everyone to get around the table and to look at this? I
think so. In answer to the first part of your question, I don't think there's any relationship soured. I think the people senior here have good relationships with the senior people at Scottish FA. Listen, the nature of football, at times things are going to get a little bit heated when you feel as if something's not worked out, and there's quite often the temperature gets turned up quite a fair bit in periods of time. But I think a responsible club is a club who, gets het up and emotive around situations like that, particularly when there's a lot riding on the season. And I think there's also an understanding from the SFA and the SPFL the pressure that clubs are working under to that extent. But I think they're also the stakeholders around about the game would expect us to try and work collaboratively, but also try and make sure that we're getting the best outcomes, not only for Aberdeen FC but Scottish football. So I think there's definitely a willingness, and I sense that from the conversations that come out. But I think responsibly is using the means in which you have available through the committees and the boards that you sit on to try and get people around the table and people agreeing to the positive change rather than kind of shouting and beating everybody over the head with it and then try and force them through change. I think working collaboratively is the best way to try and go about it, and that's what we will seek to do as a club.
Alan, just a couple from me because I need to get this turned around for 6 o'clock.
Sure.
The one thing I liked is somebody who's worked and reported up here on football for 20 years. It was nice to put that kind of what I call a lazy trope to bed, that Aberdeen fans are somehow living in the past and living off history, because it doesn't necessarily negate ambition either.
No.
And presumably that's the demand that you put on Barry, you put on yourself. How have you found your transition from Motherwell to here? Because you don't really know what it's like until you're on the inside.
It's been really enjoyable. I felt I had to almost take myself out of my comfort zone a little bit at Motherwell. Despite the fact I love my time there, I don't want to spend much in the way of time of talking about Motherwell because I think everybody knows how I feel about the place. But what I've really found is it's challenged me professionally. It's challenged me because it's a bigger operation. There's more staff, there's more people, there's more expectations. Chris, there's a bigger expectation amongst the fan group, and that's not to say people at Motherwell were accepting of anything other than success. It's not, But, listen, the fact of the matter is, as I said earlier on, there's an expectation of this club to be challenging at the top end of the table, to challenge every year for cup competitions, to play in European group stages. And that comes about with pressure. It comes with pressure on Barry and the management team, obviously. It comes with pressure on me as the most senior exec. And it comes with pressure to the board of directors. And we all understand that. I remember, anecdotally, I got a text from Dave during the Rangers game earlier on, a week last Sunday. And he was telling me that there was pints in the second half where he couldn't watch the game. And I texted him back saying, listen, this is good pressure. This is pressure that you want. This is pressure at the top end. Because I've experienced, obviously, the flip side of pressure at the other side. So, no, listen, it's been a really good 7 or 8 weeks that I've been here. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the challenge. Obviously, it really helps when you've won 7 in a row. That makes life a little bit easier and makes integration that little bit less stressful, because there's maybe a bit less noise. You can imagine if results hadn't went quite as well, then maybe there's a bit more pressure to do certain things. Whereas I feel as if, because results have been in a way, and Barry and his team have done such a good job, the players have been excellent. That's allowed me to be a little bit more of a smoother transition into the role. But I've certainly really enjoyed it. I've really been learning again. I feel as if I'm really back on my toes again and having to try and be as sharp as I possibly can be again, which happens when you get any new job, right? But no, I'm really excited for the future, both in the short and medium term, and hopefully I can do a job here that will meet the expectations and ambitions of Aberdeen Football Club and its fans.
One thing I can't imagine is trying to run a business where potentially in 4 or 5 weeks' time your budget could be massive compared to potentially what it could be if you get the European slot that I'm sure you would hope for. Does that change everything if you get third place in guaranteed group stage football, or are you really planning for like a more of a baseline, a steady kind of ascent?
I think the latter. I think what I would say is what Barry would want me to say is we're only focusing on the Rangers game, right? That's the standard answer, and a little bit that's become always a bit of a laugh and a bit of a cliche up here. But I actually think personally, just before I get into that answer, I think it speaks to Barry's mentality as a really experienced ex-international player, and I think really top players never allow themselves to focus more on the next game. So my standard answer is going to be that we're focusing on Rangers and nothing else. But what I would say to you is, if we achieve our ambitions and if we achieve what we want to achieve, then of course that's going to require a little bit more of investment, not only in the football department, but also the facility and other aspects to it. So like everything in life, success breeds success to a certain extent. Listen, I've been involved in football for 16 years. I understand the volatility. You can be one goal or one free kick or one penalty away from really successful or otherwise. And I suppose that's the nature of everything that we take on board when we work in football. The former chairman at my last club once famously said, 1 minute you're a peacock, the next you're a feathered duster, is a line I always like to use and borrow all the time, Mr. John Boyle. And football is a wee bit like that to a certain extent. But I think from our point of view, without wanting to sound boring and without wanting to give you the standard answer, finish the season as strong as we possibly can, and that starts by the Rangers game at Ibrox on Sunday. And from then on in, if we achieve our goals at the end of the season, then we'll look to gradually improve the various areas that the club will need to improve, and I think that'll be a culmination for Aberdeen FC, if we do manage to achieve that, of 10 or 12 years of really hard work.
Cheers,
Alan, much as you know has been said over the years about the huge gap between the old firm and the rest. How confident are you that Aberdeen can narrow that gap and become Scotland's clear third force?
That's a good question. Listen, the changes in football haven't just been felt in Scotland. If you look at football across the world and globally, bigger clubs are getting bigger, and you see that with the kind of advent in the chat around the Super League, and that was effectively clubs' desire, the biggest clubs' desire to be as big as they possibly can be, and I understand that, and Scotland isn't immune to that to any greater or lesser extent. I think the challenge for Aberdeen is to be the best version of Aberdeen it can be, and I've said to you already about the expectations are at this football club is to be at the top end of the table. You'll notice I'm not putting a number on that, but the top end of the table, and battling hard and fighting in domestic cup competitions and playing in European football, that is very much our aim and objective. I would be remiss of me, and I've been in this game too long to make bold predictions about what we can do at any one particular period of time, but what I can give the fans reassurance is that everybody here, including myself, will work everything that we can and as hard as we possibly can to be the very best version that we can be, and by would not be afraid of setting ambitions for ourselves internally and thinking and acting like a club who wants to achieve and wants to be successful. And that's what I want to try and bring to the football club, is that hopefully that mentality where we can achieve things that maybe other people don't think that we can.
And Duke and Majowski have been magnificent this season. Of course, they're just two of the players that are being linked with possible moves away in the summer. How important is it that the club kind of pulls out all the stops within reason, of course, to try and keep them and send out that message that, this club isn't a cheap place for other clubs to kind of cherry pick our star assets.
Sure. Listen, both Duke and Majowski are kind of the kind of flag bearers, if you like, of the recent success. There have been loads of other players, and I always think it's really important to acknowledge that. And I think Barry would, the success that Aberdeen have had this season has been collectively a team effort. Listen, within that, you've got guys who stand out and guys who attract interest. So I'm not going to patronise anybody by not suggesting otherwise. What I would say to you is that both Duke and Majowski have long-term contracts at the club. They're only in the first year of a longer-term contracts. The club is under no pressure to sell any of them, the two of them. The club don't want to sell any of the two of them. Listen, the nature of football is that the more successful you are and the more successful players are, they attract interest from other bigger clubs. And that's not just true of Aberdeen, that's true of almost every club in the world. What I will say to you in the message I would send out is if anybody wants to take our best assets away from us, particularly ones who have long contracts, we're going to be a very difficult club to deal with. We want to be a team that, listen, we have to marry up a model which says we develop players, young players through the academy, or players we bring in, like Duke, like Majowski, like Ramadani, and others, to develop on and sell. That's how they're part of it. And the club have been really explicit about saying that, and we're not afraid to say that. But at the same time, the club also want to be successful. They also want to achieve the things we've already talked about achieving. So you've got to balance that by retaining the squad and making sure that you try and build a squad rather than consistently continue to chip away at it. So in order to do that, and in order to allow yourself to do that, you've got to retain the best value for these types of players, and you've got and people have got to know that Aberdeen Football Club will do that. The board of directors here have done that before in the past. They've been robust. They've knocked back big offers for players in the past, and I sense from the ownership group and the board that they're absolutely more than prepared to do that again. So my message is that we want to build a strong team here. We want to try and retain the best players, whilst also understanding there is a model here that requires us to continually look to develop and trade on players to continue the health of the football club and allow us to continue to invest in the team. But listen, it won't be easy for anybody who wants to take any of our best players, that's for sure.
Eurovision is coming to the UK. It's time to show the world how we host. Get ready.
I was born ready.
Because this year, it's in Liverpool. Of course it is. Now come on. The Eurovision Song Contest. Watch from Tuesday, 9th of May on BBC iPlayer.
Our next match is our Gothenburg 40th anniversary match against Hibs at Pittodrie this Saturday. Tickets have sold quickly for this one, and there are very few left, so if you're planning on going, you better be quick to get your ticket. To kick off at Pittodrie is at 3 p.m, and if you're abroad, you can watch it live on Red TV International. Coverage starts at 2:30 p.m. A heads up, our match against Hearts on the 20th of May has been moved to an earlier kick-off time at 12:30 p.m. due to a Beyonce gig taking place at Murrayfield later in the day. Our ticket allocation has been reduced, so the priority points threshold is very high for tickets. Tickets will go on sale tomorrow online for supporters with 750 or more points. Tickets will be available to purchase by phone or at the ticket office on Tuesday from 9:30 a.m. Phase 2 opens for supporters with 700 or more points from 5 p.m. on Tuesday and to purchase by phone or in the ticket office on Wednesday from 9:30 a.m. And Phase 3 opens for supporters with 620 or more points from 5 p.m. on Wednesday the 10th of May and then available on Thursday morning from 9:30 a.m. to purchase by phone or in the ticket office. And I suspect there won't be a general sale for tickets, but if there is, look out for details on the club website and social media. Tickets for the Roseburn Apple are £29 for adults, £19 for over 65s, £14 for under 18s, £7 for under 16s and £5 for under 13s. And if you're in the Roseburn Lower, it's £19 for adults, £15 for over 65s, £14 for under 18s, £7 for under 16s and £5 for under 13s. That's your lot for this week. I'll be back next Monday, the 15th of May, for more from our Gothenburg celebration weekend. Have a great week, and if you're heading to Pittodrie on Friday and Saturday, enjoy the event and match. Till Monday, thanks for listening, and stand free.
All your latest Dons news. This is the AFC DONScast.